So this is, like I said, this is about the only way I'm going to be able to do this. All right. So let's go to our next word here. What do we have? So we have the letter chet, right? And it's pointed chetef patak. So cha, short duration A. Then we have a samek, again, sounds like an S, but it's pointed kirik yod, s, E. So cha, si. Then we have a dalet, and it's pointed kamatz with a yud following it. So that's going to give us the AI sound like in the word aisle, right? Like I'm going down the grocery aisle, okay? Okay, good, good, good. I'm glad. I had forgotten that we had unplugged it so that we were trying to get that broken piece out of there. So I appreciate him letting us know. I had forgotten all about it. So, cha, si, dai, chasidai. Isfuli chasidai. All right, isfuli chasidai. What about our next word here? All right, so we have the letter kaf, right? We know it's kaf because it has dagesh inside, so it's going to sound like a hard K, right? And it's pointed with cholem, so k-o, ko. Then we have this resh, and it's pointed with shva. That is a vocal shva. Remember, cholem and cholemwa are always long. The only one that is, the only O that is not long is not kamatz, right? What Kim calls not kamatz. It's not actually its name, but that's what she calls it. But anyway, so cholem and cholemwa, both are long duration. So that makes this a vocal shva right here. So we have kol, then we have re, then we have tav, and it's pointed sere yod. So that makes like the EI in the word 8, right? Te. All right? So korete. Korete. I use a martial arts. I use a very fancy martial art. It's called korete. Korete. Isfuli chasidai korete. What about this next word here? All right, so we have the letter veit, and it's pointed with vocal shva because at the beginning of a word. So ve. Then we have a resh pointed kirik yod, ri. Then a tav pointed kirik yod, ti. So vriti, vriti. All right, vriti. Drop the lid. All right, so let's go to the rest of our word. We have another hyphenated word here. All right, so what's the first part of it? All right, so we have the letter ayin, which is again a silent letter, right? But it's pointed katef patah, reduced A, right? Ah. Then we have alamed, and it's pointed sere yod, so that gives us l a. Again, it's like the EI in the word 8, right? So we have ale, ale, and then what about the last part here? We have a zayin, right? Z sound, pointed kamatz. So this, we know that this is kamatz. Why? Because it got the meteg next to it. Remember, that little straight up and down mark, when it's next to the kamatz, you remember what it tells us? If it's next to a kamatz, it lets us know that that kamatz is definitely an A sound. Because remember, it can look, that can make an O sound as well, right? that little T-shaped thing, it can make an O sound as well. But in a case where we have this line next to it, this up and down line, it looks like the word it right here. When we see that, that lets us know, definitely pronounce this like an A. Okay? So we have the zayin, and then we have the A sound. So za, za. Then we have the veit, and it's pointed patak, short duration A with a chet behind it. Vach. All right? Zavach. Remember, this is long, right? Long duration, short duration. Zavach. All right? And the meteg is at the front, so we know we're going to stress that syllable, right? Zavach. Ale zavach. You got it? Get it? Got it. Good. All right, so we have our sentence. We have transliterated it, right? So let's read it together. We have Isfuli chasidai korete vriti ale zavach. Let's do it one more time. Isfuli chasidai korete vriti ale zavach. All right. Isfu. Isfu. Do what? Isfu. All right. What do we normally look for? Prefixes and suffixes, right? I don't think she could. All right. Prefixes and suffixes. So, do we have a prefix or a suffix? You think we do. Okay. So. Li, that's a whole separate word. All right, so let's work on this one right here, isfu. So, if we were to use the aleph as a prefix, what would that mean? I will. All right, I will. But what would that leave us? So if we use this as a prefix, or a suffix, I mean, if we use the wa as a suffix, that would mean they. All right? Is there a word that is saf a word? No, it isn't. So one of those is either a prefix or a suffix. Okay? All right, so asaf, right? Asaf. The word asaf means to gather. Okay? This yud on the end, and you were right, the yud on the end, it's in the first word in the sentence, right? So what is that telling us? You were right. Huh? No. It's an imperative. It's a command. You're telling somebody. This only affects the first word in a sentence. Okay? That's what I'm saying. You said it was a command. You're right, you know. But I need to see what the logic is here. Okay? So, well, you said asaf, that's the root. So that sounded to me like you were sure. So that's what I'm saying. So, this is gather you. You gather, because look at this. Li, to me. All right, so you're telling somebody to gather somebody, right? To bring them together. All right? So, what we can say is, this is a command. So, we're going to say gather, and we're going to put you in the parentheses. Gather to me. Gather to me. What about chasidai? All right, chesed is chesed is the root, right? Well, the word chassid means like pious. Okay, so you could say my holy ones, right? And that makes sense. This person is saying, gather to me my holy ones. My, what we call the kiddushim, right? The saints, right? So gather to me my holy ones, right? My separated ones, my ones who have been called out, gather them to me. Okay? Semicolon. All right, so it's a partial pause here. Gather my holy ones to me. All right? What about koretai? This yud is not being used as ownership. It's being used as an infix. No, it's not. It happens a lot. You just got to, when you look at these things and you see that, you got to tell yourself, does it make sense to use it as ownership? No. If it doesn't, then let's look at it from a different viewpoint. But, so if we take this, we know that this yud at the end is going to be of. All right, so what's this other word? Karat. So what does the word karat mean? It's not an orange vegetable that grows on the ground. Huh? No. Karat. Karat means to cut. To, well, it literally means to take a knife and cut something, okay? So, to cut. So, who are we talking about? These holy ones here, these pious people, right? So, cut of does not make sense. But we're talking about a group of people, right? So let's extend the plural, right, to this verb. So these are people who have done something. So they are cutters of. Cutters of. And you'll understand this, okay? You'll understand why this is written this way if you understand Hebraic thought. If you understand Hebraic idioms and understanding, then you will get this. All right, so veriti, verit, covenant, yud, my. So these people, they're holy because they have cut covenant. Now, I'm not fingering anybody. I'm not pointing anybody out. Do you understand what I'm talking about, cutters of covenant? You do. No. It was an actual physical action. Back in the day, when two Hebrew people made a covenant, and this happened with Abraham. I know that's where you were going. I got this. So, Abraham made a covenant with Yahweh. Y'all remember that? Okay. So before he became the father of many nations, he cut a covenant with and it wasn't just the whole circumcision thing, okay? There was a whole another thing that he did. He took a cow or a bull and a sheep and a ram and an ox and all kind of these things, and he cut them right down the middle and laid them open. We call spatchcocking, right? So he laid them open on the ground, all the way down to a bird. Took a bird and cut it in half and laid it open. And then the Ruach, right? The Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, then came down and passed through or between those pieces of the cut animals. Okay? Back in the day, say, Brother Alex, say you and I were going to make a covenant. We would kill an animal, you and I, we would lay it on the ground, and then you and I would stand together and we would walk between those pieces, right? And we would have a covenant with each other that would only end when? When the other one died. Or if we both died, then it would, but it would be in effect forever until one of us died. Okay? Cutting covenant, that's why it's an action, right? It's cutting it. All right? That is a very serious thing. When you make a covenant with a person, it's just like it said in the scriptures where it talked about without the death of the testator, there can be no testament, right? I may have that backwards, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's the same thing with a covenant is in effect. A covenant between two people is in effect until they're both dead. And Abraham's died, but guess what? Yahweh hasn't, and he cannot. So therefore, the covenant with Abraham will stand forever because Yahweh cannot die. That's why it's important. So when we make a covenant, like I said, that covenant between me and you is good, right? But if you die, I still have to hold up my side of the bargain with your children, with your family. If I died, you'd have to do the same thing. Once you died, then all bets are off then. But that's why it's using the word cutters, because this was a very common practice back in this day. They would take an animal, split it right down the middle, lay the parts on the ground, and then they would walk in between them. And that would be called cutting covenant. So I wanted to make sure that you understood, okay, and that this is a biblical thing, right? And we've even seen where the Father, right, Yahweh, and Abraham did the same thing. But it's all, like I said, but it's important to know that when you cut covenant, it does not quit being in effect until both parties have died. That's why it was so important that Abraham did this with. Use your microphone. When we ask questions, we need to be using a microphone because people they want to hear what's being asked too.
Say we both had children, and I was dead, and my children died, but yours were alive. Would the covenant still hold?
The covenant is between you and me.
Oh, okay.
Right? So if you died, then it's my responsibility to take care of your family according to the covenant.
Yeah.
If I died and you were still alive, then it's your responsibility to take care of my family according to the covenant that we made. However, if you and I both died, then the covenant becomes of no effect.
Okay.
That's
even if the children were still alive.
Right, because they didn't cut it. We did.
Okay, I'll follow.
So that's what I'm saying. That's why it's so important. The Father Abraham cut covenant with Yahweh. Right? And if the covenant is of no effect only after both parties die, that shows that even though Abraham's dead, Yahweh's still holding up his end of the covenant.
Okay.
That's why his covenant with Abraham, or the covenant with Abraham, will never go away, because the Father cannot die.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's
I'll follow now.
Now that's what I'm talking about here. That's the idea of cutting covenant.
Okay.
It's a thing that, like I said, it's not something that we do in our culture, right? You and I don't shake hands on something and go kill a sheep, and we don't do that. We just shake hands and we go about our business. But back in this day, this is what they did. So anyway, yo. All right, so Brit, covenant, and then the Yud on the end, my. So these are cutters of his covenant. All right? So why are they, them cutting covenant with the Father is what has made them holy. Separated them, right? What about Ale Zavach? No. The setup is kun. Zavach. Anybody remember what zavach means? And actually, it will be better if we kind of jump to the second word in this hyphenated word to kind of help us with the first one. Because the first one's actually kind of like a preposition. So zavach means to sacrifice an animal. Right? That's what cutting covenant, they sacrificed an animal. So, I'm going to put the word sacrifice here. Okay, so they're cutters of covenant. How? Ale, by. That's how they cut the covenant, right? So ale, we're just going to put by. Because they're cutters of covenant by sacrifice. Okay? So they have made the sacrifice. And you know, again, let's look at it this way, y'all. We don't make animal sacrifices anymore. There's no reason for us to do that. Right? But what we got to remember is this covenant with Abraham was set up before any of us were ever even thought of, or, you know what I mean? But since the father cannot die, it continues to extend down through his line. So even though, you know, we weren't present there, technically, we weren't present at that exchange, we were there in the loins of Abraham, right? Just like you talk about Levi paying tithes while he was yet in the loins of Abraham. That's a few generations before Levi. But spiritually, he was still there. But here's the thing we got to remember. These guys have made sacrifices. And we've done them. We've made sacrifices. We've given up things that we enjoy, things that we, you know, out of obedience and out of because it's the right thing to do. Right? We've given up going and doing the things we wanted to go do on Saturdays so we can be here. Right? We don't go to the ball game. We don't go to the soccer game. We don't go to the mall, right? Yeah, we don't shop. We don't watch TV. We don't cook. We don't go out to eat. We've given up all the things that the world says, oh, man, Saturday, that's the perfect day to do this. You know what I mean? But we don't do that. Okay? We don't even go to a funeral if it's on a Saturday. Now, Saturday night after Shabbat is over with, which I've done, if you need to go, go. And I went to a friend of mine's funeral. It was on a Saturday, but they were having it that night. So I was like, cool. But after, you better believe, and you can ask my wife, I waited until the sun went down, and then I went and got dressed, and then when I got home, I went ahead and changed my clothes and took a bath and all that kind of stuff. Well, unless it was your father, your mother, your sister, who, you know, I mean, your brother, something like that. But like I said, like a friend, okay? There's just the things that Shabbat is put aside for him completely. So we don't do the things that we want to do, right? We don't, like I said, we don't go to the mall. We don't get on Facebook. We don't go to a graduation. We don't, you know, go to whatever. That you know, Shabbat is supposed to be completely about him. So, like I said, unless it's your close relative. But that's part of how we sacrifice. That's part of, you know what I mean? We give up doing the things that we want to do, and we do the things that we need to do. Okay? But, like I said, looking at this, we're all part of that. We're all part of that covenant, whether we know it or not. That's the thing, right? The church has an identity crisis. right? They don't know who they are, so they do what they want to do. But that's where we come in, and we say, hey, I know that my nephew is graduating kindergarten today, but I can't go. I got to do, and it's like what Rebbe was talking about earlier. Sometimes to do the right thing, that's going to hurt someone's feelings. And they're going to get upset, and they're going to get angry, and you deal with it. You know, and that's what I was saying. It's, you know, this walk is tough on because, you know, family means so much. But sometimes you got to tell them, hey, I really got to do the right thing here, and the right thing is that I go to the shul, you know, instead of being at your 4th of July picnic or whatever.
Shane,
Well,
I was thinking with this psalm, when you see what this means and when you understand what cutting a covenant is, it makes it even worse and more abhorrent that they try to tell you that it's done away with.
well, yeah.
You know what
because
I'm saying? It's
if-
because it's
if-
so
If
special.
the Old Testament, right, if the Tanakh was done away with, then guess what? Your covenant with the Father is gone. You have no covenant with the Father, if that was the case. Do you want that? Do we want that? No, we don't want that, right? Because, you know, back in the he wasn't going to cut covenant with the Goyim. You got to come this way. That's why Yahushua said, I'm the only way you're going to get in there. Right? So then you take the covenant here and you chunk it away because, you know, to you, oh, I want to be able to eat bacon. Is that bacon worth losing your covenant with the Father? I don't think so. You know, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm saying. This is a lot bigger deal than what people think. This kind of stuff is a much bigger deal than what people think. But anyway, this is Psalm 50 and 5. 50 and 5 says, gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. But I think that when we look at it, there's a big difference in my mind in making a covenant and cutting one, right? Me and Alex, I'm just you're gonna be my subject today, brother. Is that okay? You all right with that? Me and Alex make a covenant. All we got to do is shake hands. We got to agree on something and shake hands, right? Ain't nobody getting killed. Ain't no pain. I ain't doing all that, sis. I ain't doing all that. That's just nasty. But my point is, today, you know, it's not a big deal. We make covenants or agreements all the time. But back in that day, you had to go find an animal. That animal had to be clean. It had to be right, as fitting a sacrifice for the right. Then you'd have to kill it and cut it, and there's blood and guts and all this, and there's a whole lot. Plus, then, like I said, there's that lasting covenant agreement between those two people until they're both dead. It's a big deal. So that's what I'm saying. We need to think about how important this covenant is. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just, I can do that anytime because I want to be able to do my thing. And it don't work like that. It does not work that way. Well, and that's my point. You know what I mean? Scriptures say you know neither the day or the hour. Right? So rather than risk that, let's just do the right thing now. Right? And I guarantee you, somebody you may make somebody upset, but they'll get over it. I promise you. I can't tell you how many times my family has been angry with me and cussed me and cursed me to my face and I'm the worst and blah, 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 blah. Right? But then 2 days later, I'm the best thing that's ever walked the face of the earth. Because they need something. But anyway, the point is, they'll get over it. I promise you they will. It ain't going to be comfortable for a little while, but they'll get over it. But that's how we get in this covenant with him. We got to give things up. Not fun. Not comfortable. Where is my eraser? Oh, it's up here. I'll use this one until I find that other one out. But anyway, Psalm 50 and 5. All right, let me move on to this next one. I extrapolated a little more than I wanted to on that first one. I do apologize. Okay, all right. Rebbitzin asked me to tell anybody who may be listening, if you don't already get these little lessons, these little email things that I hand out on the weekends, if you don't already get them, make sure that you get us your email address so that I can send them to you. I always send them out on Shabbat mornings. So if you want to be in on the class, if you want to learn, that way you can print it off and follow along with what you're seeing on your screen. But just post your email address in the chat, in Telegram, or in or send it to me or whatever, and that's fine. We'll take care of it there. All right, so let's move on to our second sentence here. So we've got another hyphenated word, right? We've got another hyphenated word, and that hyphen does what? It just tells us that the first word is modifying the second word. So what's the first word? Lo, right? So we have a lamed, L sound, pointed cholem, right, with this aleph behind it. The aleph is a silent letter, so it picks up the O. Yeah, what you got? That's fine. That's what I asked. We'll get it. We'll get it, and I'll get you added to the list. Okay. So we have lamed, pointed cholem, with the aleph. L, O, lo. Not high, but low. All right, what about the next word here, the second part of our hyphenated word? All right, so we have aleph, again, silent letter, but it's pointed with ketef petak, right? So a shortened A sound. A. Then we have the letter chet, and it's pointed petak, another shortened A sound. Cha. But then we have the lamed here, and this lamed has a dot inside. So this is not a beged kafat letter, right? So we double it. So we're going to make an L sound on the end of the previous syllable. So chal. Then we're going to pick up the second lamed, the tzere, which is a long duration E-type vowel, and then the second L here. So lel. So we have achalel. 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 All right? Achalel. All right? So what about the next word here? Beriti, just like we had in the previous syllable, right? Because of the time it was written. Because remember, some of this was, it was in, there were differences between the times that these Psalms were written. Years, sometimes decades, So where it may be a bait, the sound may be a bait sound, a B. But then in another psalm, the sound is a V sound, but it's the same letter, right? So we know that Brit, or without the dot, Vrit, they mean the same thing, right? So Beriti. Right? Beriti. All right, beriti. All right, so what about our next word here? All right, so we have a wa pointed shuruk. So how do we pronounce that? Okay, so normally we open a syllable with a consonant sound. But there's a mem following, right? So remember, when the wa, especially when it's pointed shuruk, right? That dot in the middle. when it's pointed that way, you got to look at the second letter. If the second letter is a bait or a mem or a lamed or a nun, then it will have the U sound. In this case, we've got a wa pointed shuruk, we got a mem following the wa pointed shuruk. So we don't need the consonant sound. So we're just going to pronounce this as u. Then the next letter, the mem, is pointed cholem wa, mo. So we have u, mo. Then we have the letter tzadi, right, tz, and it's pointed kamatz with aleph behind it. Aleph is silent, but it's going to extend the ah sound from the kamatz. All right? So tza, umotza, umotza. All right? Short, long, long, umotza. Yo. Okay, that's fine. Appreciate it, sis. Thanks. All right, umotza. All right, so what's our next word here? All right, so we have the letter sin. Sin, right? Indicators on the left-hand side. Now, remember, this little pitchfork-looking letter here, it has a dot either over the left or the right-hand side. And that dot tells us how to pronounce this letter. If it's on the left hand, it's like an S. If it's on the right-hand side, it's like SH. So we have the dot over the left-hand side, so we know we pronounce it like an S. And then we have vocal shiva, a quick E, because it's at the beginning of a word. So this first syllable is se. Se. Then we have the letter fe, and it's pointed kamatz. So long duration A type vowel, fa. So we have sefa. Then we have a tav, and it's pointed patak with yud behind it, right? So T, and then like an AI, tai. All right, so we have sefatai. Sefatai. Se. Fatai. Sefatai. All right, what about this word down here on the bottom? Lo again, right? Now we had lo up here. We've got it down here again. Lo. And then whatever this next, what's this last word we have here? So you double it, right? Well, the thing is, you can. There's no other nukud there. So you can use it as a dagesh, but it's pulling double duty here, right? It's a dagesh and a shuruk. All right? So we have aleph pointed chatef patach. Ah. Then we have a shin pointed with patach, sha. Then we have this nun, but it's got this dagesh inside. We've got to have something to give us a vowel sound. So it has to be a U sound, right? But you've got this nun, well, I mean, you've got a nun, it's got dagesh, so we know we're going to double it. So that goes from being sha to shan, and we pick up the second nun, use this dagesh as a shuruk, and then the hey, nu. All right? So it's ashanu. Ashanu. Okay? So let's read it together. Lo achalel beriti umotza sefatai lo ashanu. Do it again. Lo achalel beriti Umotza sefatai lo ashanu. Lo. It's a negator, right? It means no or not. So it is doing what? It's modifying the word that comes after it. So whatever is achalel, whatever that means, it's not going to happen. Right? So, achalel. How would we translate that? What's the first thing we do? Prefixes and suffixes. Is the lamed a suffix? No. So, most words are made up of how many letters? 3, right? 1, 2, 3. What's that? That aleph is a suffix or a prefix, yeah? And it means what? I will. Okay? I will. So, not I will chalel, or I will not chalel. Right? So what does that mean? That's halel. This is chalel. All right? Halal, the root. So the word halal means to break in pieces, or to dissolve, to wound. Okay? I will not. Okay, so not, I will break. So, I will not break. Lo achalel. I will not break beriti, my covenant. Right. Berit, covenant. I, my. I will not break my covenant. See, here's the thing. You can't break this covenant, right? Because by the pattern of the book, covenant only ends when both parties are dead, right? Since he cannot die, guess what? He's not going to break his covenant, right? I will not break my covenant. What about umotza? Very good. All right, so when the was uses a prefix, it means and, right? So, motza, what does motza mean? It's not matzah. Well, it is kind of, because no. Why was there matzah? Why? Okay, let's see what the sages say. Because they had to leave quick. The word motzah means to go out. Okay, so to leave from somewhere, to go out from someplace, right? So, and we can say, this is another kind of those idiom things where we got to kind of make it make sense to us. All right, and going out. What about sefatai? I don't think so. No, it's acting as a suffix. So your root word is safat. All right? Safat. So safat means the lips. Safat. So safatai, my lips, right? So safatai. Given the context, so we know he's not going to break his covenant, correct? And that which is going out from my lips, again, remember, we have to add linking words in English to make it make sense, right? So that which goes out of my mouth, lo, no, right? Not. And then what about ashanu? So what did we have up here with achalel? I will. So what about here? What about ashanu? All right, so the I will, the aleph, I will. So what's that leave us as our root word? Shana. Shana. Not the Acapulco, what do they call them? Acapella group. Acapulco group. All right, so Shana. What is Shana? What does that mean? Shana means to change something, to alter it. All right? So lo ashanu, right? I will not alter. All right? So we have the Father speaking here. You can use change, Mom. It doesn't matter. All right? But this goes along with what Rebbe's been saying, right? It can't be changed or altered. Which those two things mean the same thing, you know.
I am really thankful that we found out that we are going to be judged from a set of rules that we are familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
They're right there. They have been written down. They're not going to alter. There's not going to be some change in Congress before we're set up for judgment. It's all there. We know what it's going to be. We know how to do and how to go and how to act.
So this goes right along with what Dad's been saying, right? This is Psalm 89 and 34. 89 and 34. My covenant I will not break. Right? Lo achalel beriti. Not break my covenant. Right? Nor alter the thing that has gone out of my lips. So I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change my word, right? All right? So this is where we have, like I said, with our linking words, right? And that which goes out, or that is, sir? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry. So that what comes out of my mouth, I'm not going to alter it. I'm not going to change it. So that's the thing. If he said it, he means it, right? And the scriptures tell us that he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He even says it right here. What I've said, I'm not changing. I'm not going to alter it. I'm not going to change it to suit what you want. You need to learn how to, this is the Father, you need to learn how to get along with me rather than me trying to get along with you, right? Why do you have to do it? Because I said so. That's why. I'm the daddy and I said so, and that's how it's going to be. That's how we're going to play this game. But again, Psalm 89 and 34. Remember, he's not going to break his covenant. And he's certainly not going to change what he's said. I got to tell people, he's made you a promise. He's bound to that promise, right? So that's something that we all need to remember. He's not, what's the word? Schizophrenic, right? He ain't just gonna change like that. Oh, I never said that. All right, so let's move on. Boy, I am really behind. It's got good stuff that we're working on today, I think. All right, so here's our paleo word, right? So we use these words and try to tear them apart a little bit so we can see where maybe the original thought behind it, or if there's a lesson for us to learn. Because sometimes we know that there are good lessons that we can learn in the scriptures out of one word. You know? Well, okay, so for those of you who don't know, Paleo Hebrew is a form of Hebrew that was used way before the one that we've just been looking at. It was actually used between the time that they came out of Egypt and went into the promised land. So anyway, this is an older form, not the oldest form, but it is an older form of Hebrew than the one that you normally see. And so if you got any questions about that, just, hit me up on Messenger or whatever. We can talk about it. It's, no big deal. I always like the opportunity to be able to talk about it. All right, so what's this first letter that we've got over here? That's the letter Nun, right? All right, what about this one in the middle here? That's a Wa. So Wa is one of those funny letters, right? We're going to do it as a U. What about this last one here? That's the letter Het, right? So it sounds like a CH. But in between this Wa and this Het, we are going to add a vowel, another vowel, right? So we're going to add an A in there. So that gives us the word Nuach. Nuach. So, what does Nuach mean? Oh. Ooh, that means that's nice to sit down on that chair. Nuach. All right. What was our parsha today? Noah, right? It's just a slight conjugation of his name, right? So, Noah, which means what? What does Noah's name mean? Tell me, what does it mean, Shelby? Tell me, sis. I see you flipping furiously through the pages. Tell me what it means. You left it in your other jacket? Is that what you do, man? Do what, Mom? Okay, so Noah's name, Noah, means rest. Okay, rest. And the word Nuach means to rest. Right? So that's where we get his name from, or that's where his name came from, right? Because you had who? You had Methuselah, right? You had Methuselah, right? And his name means after his death, it will come. And after Methuselah died, that's when the flood happened. Okay? Methuselah. Well, Nuach means rest. They were in that boat for over a year. Yeah. Who knows? But I mean, think about it, man. They floating around for over a year in this boat. When we were kids, we were all told 40 days and 40 nights. Well, when we got to looking at the scriptures, like, wait a minute. They were in here 300 and something days, you know what I mean? It just rained for 40 days and 40 nights. We think we got it bad down here. Sometimes I feel like we got it like that in Mississippi, right? I'm looking for somebody to come cruising by, ask me if I want to get a ride. But we have so it means rest, right? Okay, so what does the Nun, what's the meaning of the letter Nun? Okay, so on the top level, it's a fish, right? But the flashing brilliance would be like light playing off its scales, things like that, okay? So quickness could be a lightning bolt, right? But when we look at Nun, usually in a positive sense, rest is a positive thing, right? So when we look at it in a positive sense, the Nun is synonymous with life. Life. Okay? Life. What about the Wa? What is the Wa? The Wa is a nail, and what does a nail do? All right? It joins things, right? What about the Het? What is it? All right, so on the top level, the Het is it's a separation. It's a boundary, right? It's a fence. Okay, and what do fences and boundaries do? They separate. So Noah was first he had to build the boat. He had to build the ark, right? He had to build it. It took him 120 years to build it. But he had to build it. It was just him him and Shem and Ham and Japheth building it, and everybody making fun of him. But he built it anyway. And people made fun of him, and they called him crazy, and they did all this stuff, but he kept on doing it. Because it was more important that he did the right thing than the thing that would please them, right? So, here he is building it. And they're like, dude, you're nuts. You think water's going to come out of the sky? You are crazy, man. That has never happened ever in life. It doesn't happen. So here comes all these animals now marching over there. And they're like, what in the world is going on with this? This is crazy. Right? Do what? Well, if you remember when it started falling, then they come banging on the door. But by that time, Yahweh had closed the door, and he couldn't open it if he wanted to. That's what I'm saying. It was 7 days it was already doing it. And they're still too wound up and caught up in what they want. Right? They're still too wound up in all that. So when the rain comes, the animals are in there, the doors are shut. That's it. They're not getting back open until it's the right time. Right? He makes everything beautiful in his time. So it's not going to happen. It's not going to open up. But here's the thing that we have to remember. Those 8 people and those animals, well, except for the fish, I would suppose. I would think that the fish would have been okay. They wouldn't have had to been in the boat, right? So, well, I mean, you got fish, right? I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, living their best life. They're just, wow, this is all new stuff for us. But the thing that we have to remember is, regardless of everything that was going on outside, there was peace inside the ark. Because think about it. The scriptures tell us that while they were in there, it didn't matter, the lions and the cows and the bears, and they all ate grass and straw and stuff. They weren't killing each other. I've often heard that, that's what happened to all the unicorns, was that they got eaten. The carnivores ate them while they were on, they were all then confined to deck number C. But anyway, but like I said, he found a place of safety and a place of peace amidst all the other stuff that was going on. Like I said, even the animals were knocked out. They were docile. So just as he found peace and safety in that ark, he found it because it was a place of separation from the trial and all this stuff that's going on outside. There was like this little place, 450 feet long and all, but there was this place, right, of separation for those who found grace in the Father. Because the scripture said that Noah found grace in the sight of Yahweh, right? What does that word grace mean? Now, here's the thing. The church told us that grace meant you just do what you want to. Cut loose, fancy free, whatever, do what you want. It's all good, right? That is not what grace means, all right? In Hebrew, the word is chen, C-H-E-N, chen, right? That word chen means grace. But in order to understand exactly what grace is, we got to know that it means it is unmerited favor. That is somebody looking kindly on you for something that you did not do. Okay? So he said, if I found grace in your sight. The reason why Noah found favor or found grace in the sight of Yahweh was because he walked with him. He listened to him. He followed him. He obeyed him. Right? I talk a lot about obedience. But he obeyed him. So therefore, Noah found grace in the sight of Yahweh. He found favor with him. Right? There's nothing you can do. You can't be good enough. You can't walk tighter. You can't do. There's nothing you can do to make favor with the Father. What you do is you obey him, you listen, you walk after him, and you do the best that you can, right? And, grace is extended, right? Or that favor is extended. And when we do the same thing, when we walk with him, when we obey, when then we find the same peace and safety. The issue is we've got to separate ourselves from a lot of the fun things that we used to like to do. And a lot of the fun people that we used to like to hang out with, right? We've got to separate ourselves from that, A lot of friends years ago that at the time we thought they were great people to hang out with. Now, we look back and we say, wow, those guys are really screwed up. And they're in a really bad way. We had fun at the time, but then later on, we realized, hey, this is not the way that we need to go. So, separate ourselves from the woes of this world, right? Then we can find that peace and safety as well. When we're inside of his ark, right? Kind of like Abraham's bosom, you know what I mean? When we're inside of his ark, then we're not overtaken by floods of negativity, right? Or hatred, or waves of uncertainty and strife, fussing with people, getting in arguments, finding ourselves in situations where we shouldn't be, putting our lives in danger, right? He keeps us safe and he keeps us secure. Because if we follow him, we're going to do the right thing, right? We're supposed to, right? That's what we're going to do. And when we find ourselves in his commandments and in his covenant, right? When we voluntarily put our place in that selves, that's when we realize that our life is tied to being separated. That's what the word holy means. All right? Kadosh, it means set apart. It doesn't mean walking around, oh, I'm so holy, I pray 28 hours a day. That's not what that means. All right? It's okay. No big deal. It's just a thing for open drive. But that's what I'm saying. Holy does not mean you walk on water. The scriptures say a righteous man falls 7 times, right? What being holy means is that you're separated for a purpose. Right? You're not like everybody else. You're separated for a purpose. Okay? So, like I said, when we realize that our life is joined to being separate, it doesn't make us bad. Because when we're separated, then we're under that covenant, right? When we're separated, we're walking in his commandments, we're separate. Right? All of our friends are going to the mall on Saturday. You can't do that. You go to Shabbat. Just like last night. I was watching a thing last night. They were talking about this haunted forest up in Escataba. Not Escataba. Istabuchi. All right? Well, what was funny was they were talking about it and they were saying, come to the haunted forest, all scary and stuff. And the guy said, it's going to be open the night of the 28th, the 29th, and of course the 31st. Well, tonight is the 28th, or yesterday was the 28th. Today's the 29th. Tomorrow's the 30th, and then the 31st is Monday, right? So what I'm saying is they have the haunted forest open on Erev Shabbat and on Shabbat, but they sure made sure it was closed down for Sunday. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you can't do it on Sunday, then you shouldn't do it any other. But you see what I'm saying? That's what it was funny to me. I was like, what are these guys with that stuff? But like I said, this shows that our life, that separate life, it's separate because it's sanctified, right? Here's another thing that I want you to know. This word Noah, it also means a quiet resting place. Right? So when we think about like Psalm 27, or the 23rd Psalm, right? He leads me beside the still waters. Right? That's a place to rest and to relax and to kind of get your steam back. And so, like I said, that's kind of how it was for these guys, you know? No matter how bad it was outside, they were safe. And he kept them separate. And why did he keep them separate? Because he had a purpose for them. That's the reason why he keeps us separate, because he has a purpose for us. Amen? You believe that? He's got a purpose for us. That's why we have to be separate. Anyway, that's going to do it for my class today.